Welcome to the 5 a.m. grind. Horace, how's it going?
It's going well. How's it going with you?
Yeah, it's good. You know what this week is?
No.
What is? Give it some thought. What is this week? This week is
March
it's
break.
It's my birthday this week. We're not gonna tell. Yeah. You guys can see how good of a friend I have here. Doesn't even remember my birthday. Who cares? I don't really care about it either. Anyway. But anyways.
No, I know. March 19th, is it?
March 19th. Yeah.
So see,
We're not
I
gonna
knew it, but I don't know if this is public information. I was just,
Nice save. So one of the things that usually crosses my mind when I'm, getting older, and now that I'm hitting my birthday, is always this sort of comparison to other people and where they are in their careers and where I am, where I used to be, all that stuff. Because you get older, you're like, oh, damn, I'm at this age. Let's say it's X. And you're like, what have other people achieved at this age? Oh, my God, I feel like a failure, that sort of thing. Or sometimes you're like, oh, I'm not doing all that bad. I'm actually doing okay. So I thought we'd cover the topic of comparing yourself to others. And 3 questions. Number 1, should you compare yourself to others? Very basic. Number 2, what's the difference between comparing yourself to others and jealousy? And then number 3, what's the difference between comparing yourself to others and competition?
Okay.
Right? So should you compare yourself to others in general?
I mean, I feel like you can't answer that first question without, like, the jealousy question.
The jealousy question? Okay, do you want to ask? Okay, why don't we go to that one then?
Yeah.
What's the difference between comparing yourself to others and jealousy?
I think, first of all, there's different definitions of jealousy. I feel like in the West, jealousy is always wanting or coveting something that somebody else has. Yeah. Right? Whereas I feel like in other cultures, jealousy you could define as coveting something that somebody else has and not wanting them to have it. Right? So that's what is in the West, right? Like, I'm jealous that you have it, you shouldn't have it, and I should have it. Right? Yeah. Whereas I feel like in other cultures, in Eastern cultures, there's different forms of jealousy. One form of jealousy is coveting what you have, but not necessarily feeling that you shouldn't have it. You get what I mean? So I do feel that the second one, where coveting something someone else has without wanting them not to have it, is something that is perfectly fine to have. Right. Right. But then you have to narrow it down to what is it that you're coveting about them and what is it that you want to have. Like, if it's like a really fast car, is it the best thing to covet? I don't know. Right? But like, if it's like knowledge, right? Like, if somebody knows more than you, is more articulate, like, yeah, man, I'm always, like, in that sense, I'm jealous all the time, man. I am jealous all the time. All the time. Whenever I see somebody who speaks well, I'm like, oh, I
wish I could be like this person.
Yeah, I wish I could be like this person. Or, like, and it just sounds dumb, but, like, when I see, like, contracts or anything like that are really well written, I'm like, yo, who wrote this? Right? This looks like a really well written, like, language, whether it's spoken or written, is, for me, I get jealous real quick. Not that I don't want them to have it, but I need to, like, push myself to be like that. I love, like, just reading good language.
I think so. What we're saying maybe is that comparisons are done in 2 ways. Yeah. There's a positive way, such that it's a way that you compare yourself to someone and you're like, oh, I don't write as well, or I don't speak as well. This person definitely does it better than I do. So I could improve in here, there, etc. It's like points of improvement where you're comparing your performance versus someone else, and you're like, here's how I could improve. And that's a positive comparison. Yeah. But jealousy is more of like a negative comparison where you're like, oh, I want what they have. And it's more materialistic and sort of very platonic. It's not very substantial, right? It's not in a way to improve yourself. You just want whatever this other person has. Or you, like you said, you don't want them to have whatever it is that they have.
I find that, I find that that's definition of jealousy is more Western. Yeah. Eastern, you can still have that jealousy, but there's different levels, different types of jealousy. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't think we have those we don't have a word in the English language that describes, hey, I really like what you're doing and I want it too, but I don't want you not to have it.
Yeah.
There's no word that describes that.
Yeah. So true. Interesting. So should we go back to the first question then? Should you compare yourself to others? I feel like this is one hell of a philosophical question, but we'll cover it. Should you compare yourself to others?
Yeah.
You should.
Under the right circumstances.
For the right reasons.
But then also, here's the other thing, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
When I hear comparing yourself to others,
yeah,
I do find that everybody's comparing themselves to everybody else nowadays, right? But it's not in a good way. It's all on Instagram. Oh, I like how they look. I like how this happens. It's very superficial, right? And then you don't want them to have it. You lose self-esteem with yourself, right? There is a way to go into comparing yourself to others, and there's a method to do it that is the most effective.
Okay. So what you're saying is there is a positive way to do it, and then a very negative one. Society
not
generally,
even just approach. It's not even just the action. Before you start comparing yourself to others, you need to work on yourself. Mm-hmm. And then when you're ready, then you can go and compare yourself to others. And then there's a way to do that as well. Does that make sense? So it's like a two-step thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't know who you are, if you haven't put in the time to think about how you are, how you've gotten where you've gotten to, right? Really understand yourself. If you go and compare yourself to others, what are you comparing, man? You don't know where you are. You don't know where your starting point is. So you really definitely need to figure out where your starting point is. What do you value in life? And sometimes, people get caught up, man. It's like you're in a arena you see somebody who a lot of people are admiring, and you like the admiration, right? And you're like, I wish I could be like that. But what they're doing to get that admiration, you're probably not interested in. But if you don't know yourself well enough, you're misplacing the admiration with whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? If I see like a really good baker, I'm like, oh my God, and that baker is just he has his 15 minutes of fame. Everybody's like, oh, this is awesome, right? And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could be like that. But do I want to be a baker, or do I want the admiration? Me personally, yeah, if I was in that situation, I would be like, oh, I want the admiration. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to be a baker. But then I should then reflect that admiration is not something that I should be getting in and of itself. It's something that I do that creates the admiration.
Right. It's very interesting. So you're
I'm
saying,
going on a tangent.
no, but there's a lot you said, a lot to unpack. I think what you're saying is you need to be centered and develop like self-confidence and your own.
I don't even know confidence, man, because confidence is just like, anybody could get confidence.
You need to be self-assured, though. You need to be just comfortable with yourself before you go ahead and because here, I have a quote on this, which is, I think what you're saying, society, the problem with society today, it's the reason we struggle with insecurity so much. It's because we compare our behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel, right? We're like, oh, our life is so crappy. Look at this person's life. But that's only a segment of their life. It's just their highlight reel which they're posting on social media. And you're like, oh my God, this person's done so much, but in the background, they could be just like you, struggling with the same issues.
Everybody's struggling with stuff, man. It's a hard and fast rule. There's nobody who has a perfect life.
Yeah, right? No, for sure. I do have one problem with society, though, and which is happening today as well. A lot of people have this positive stuff, and they're all about, don't compare yourself, don't do that. It's a wasteful exercise, etc. You're going to feel bad about yourself. Don't do it. You're awesome just the way you are, etc. And I appreciate that to a certain extent, because we're dealing with a lot of image issues, insecurity issues, etc. But I do have a problem with the fact that if that is making you complacent, I do have an issue with that. Like, look, sometimes I do compare myself to others, and the reason why I do that is because I want to light a fire under my butt to just keep moving. Because otherwise I'll just go, oh, I'm not going to compare myself to others. I did better than yesterday, so here's a participation award for what I did. And that is also becoming a bit of an issue with our society today. It's like these participation awards that are given out just for showing up. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
you do sometimes need to compare yourself to others and be like, okay, here's where I'm going wrong. I need to pick it up a little bit, pull my socks up and keep moving, or otherwise try a little harder. And that's usually fine as well. It's not a negative comparison. You're just saying, hey, I need to get my act together a little bit.
I mean, again, with
forward.
that mindset in society, you have to analyze where it's coming from. I feel like a lot of this, or actually not a lot, probably all, if not vast majority, is coming from a marketing machine.
Yes.
Right. Whereas like in order to create consumers, you need to create demand. And before it was, hey, to create demand, we got to show people what they are lacking.
Yes.
Right. Because what you are lacking is still a reasonable or logical reason to buy something.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like it came off as like, hey, this is what you need because you don't have it.
Yeah,
right?
They like create a problem that you don't, that you didn't know you had.
Like, dude, like if you look at like just the evolution, if you go marketing far back enough, it's like it's giving you a description of things. This is what it has.
Yeah.
Right. After that, like you screw that. Let's just create the demand, right? By telling somebody that they need to feel bad. Now somebody else like that is pervasive across the culture, right? Or across a specific market. Then in order to like, because these are marketing games now, right? It's like, okay, well, how is my company going to be heard above all of this stuff, right? So what kind of marketing scheme do I want to create? Okay, well, you know what? You're perfectly defined the way you are, and I'm going to move more towards a lifestyle brand. You get what I mean? So these kind of things that are influencing decisions are often dictated by the marketing machine. And people need to take a step back. Again, so that's why you have to be self-assured or self-aware. Mm-hmm. As to where you're coming from and why you're thinking these things, to really then analyze where this information is coming from, where these feelings are coming from, right? And then when you compare yourself to others, compare for substance, right?
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I've realized about comparisons as well is like whenever my birthday comes around, whenever and sometimes I do this all, just thinking alone in my life and where I've come. You think about, I'm this age, I haven't achieved this. You look at, I don't know, LeBron James, and you're like, damn, holy cow, he's gotten quite far, But what I would say is that that's not meant to make you feel bad. Number one, there's this very good quote that says, don't compare your step 1 with someone else's step 10, right? So don't make that comparison. But you can definitely admire them and take a look at LeBron James's career and be like, okay, what has he done that I can implement in my career to make myself, I don't know, be successful in certain areas in my life. I think you can definitely take that. And the other thing I've realized in life too, you realize that life is not necessarily a zero-sum game. LeBron James can be successful and you can be successful too, right? There's enough space in the world for everybody to be successful in their own way as well. Yeah,
but also
you don't need to be the basketball player or the NBA player doing exactly what he does, because you're never going to be that person, and that is okay. You can certainly take lessons that they've implemented in their life, implement it in your career and your business, etc., and then be successful in your own way.
I mean, that kind of blanket comparison is always useless because, I mean, again, start with where you are. What do you value in life? I value family. Now, do I have time to be a professional athlete? Do I want to spend 60, 80 hours training every day?
Yeah.
Right? And not have time for anything else? That's a sacrifice. Do I want that? Right? Sure. Again, you're separating the admiration he's getting with the sacrifice he's making.
Right. Which you don't see because people don't highlight the sacrifice that's required and the work.
Dude, how much effort do you have to put in for 10 minutes of just performing in front of people? You know what I mean?
The NBA. It must be an insane amount of work.
So same thing. And same thing with actors. How much time do you have to put in looking a certain way, retaking things, retaking scenes to have the perfect movie, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're seeing a very refined, Instagram version of these people, and it's exacerbated by people's minds kind of making it even bigger than it actually, even what they're seeing. You know what I mean? Because they just fill the gaps with, oh my God, everything else in their lives is perfect too.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like the other person is coming to them and saying everything in my life is perfect. You're doing it to yourself, right? You're creating a fictitious person, then comparing yourself to that person, which makes absolute no sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So let's go on to our third question here, which is, what's the difference between comparing yourself to others and competition? So, competition, I mean, I compete with my brother. My brother and I usually used to have a healthy competition. We still do, to be honest. We're adults.
Yeah.
And it's, but I would say that that's perfectly sometimes healthy competition because it drives you in a positive way, right? It's not nefarious. It doesn't come from a bad place. It's just from a good place. And you push each other to become better in your own way. And then when you face society, I don't know, you are family, obviously, but when you face the external world, you're ready to take it on because you've competed each other.
I mean, I feel like, again,
made each other better.
It's where humans are emotional creatures. Competition gets you emotionally involved, right?
Yeah.
Again, if you're assured, right, and you're self-aware, right?
Right.
You're not, like, dude, if we compete against one another, it's more getting us motivated to do something. It's not necessarily, I gotta, like, beat you at all costs.
Yeah.
Right? It's a motivation that's like, oh, this is fun. I kind of want to win. There's whatever, right? But if I'm not self-aware, right, and understand that why I'm doing it, then I'll be like, yo, I'm focused more on you losing than completing this task in front of me. You know what I mean? Because the point is to complete the task. It's not about, like, hey, listen, I did this better than you, and you're an idiot, and I'm smarter, or whatever, right? Like, or like, oh, you did it better, so I must be dumber, you know? It's about getting it done. That's the motivation to see. Let's see if this could happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like you have to be self-aware going into that. And the difference between, for example, competition and comparison is comparison, somebody's already done A, and you're trying to do A.
Right. Yep.
Competition is none of you have done A. You're trying to get to A. You're seeing who gets there first. So, and that's always, I mean, that's the motivation is, I mean, there's different types of motivation. But again, you have to be self-aware to get into these things, man.
Right. Interesting. Could you, like, so just personally speaking, could you give an example where where you think, like, comparisons have helped you become better or improve yourself in a certain way?
Dude, I compare myself every day.
Yeah.
I look at guys who are better at marketing than me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Sales than me, who are better, like, well-written.
Yeah.
Who are more knowledgeable, who are all these things that is better than me.
Yeah.
And then I don't look at it as, oh my God, like, I hate them, I wish I could have it. I'm
like,
all right, in order for me to get there, what's the next step I have to take?
Yeah.
Right? So you take you compare it, and you're like, all right, these guys are like this, and I'm like this. I want to get to this, right? Now, instead of saying, hey, like, instead of me sitting down and saying, Ali's like this, I say, hey, Ali is my point B, I'm at point A.
Yep.
In order to get to point B in this particular situation, what's the first step I have to take to go on this journey from point A to get to point B? And you'll find out almost always, man, stuff ain't that difficult, man.
Sometimes it's not that hard.
Right?
It just requires you to start something and do something, take action.
And the people were like, oh my God, somebody else is doing it, and they're lazy.
Yeah.
That's what I find. Not to be a bit of an ass, but they're lazy. Like, if you think somebody's better, go do it.
Right.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if it's like, hey, I look like A and I want to look like B, that's something that's outside of your control, that's a foolish freaking journey to make, because that journey is impossible. But if it's like, hey, I got to drop a few pounds or I got to gain a few pounds, whichever way you want to go, man. It's like a perfectly valid, okay, well, this person looks nice. Now, one of the weird things, though, I've seen is like some of this comparison stuff's really gotten out of hand, where people are going to, like, surgeons, right? And they have like filters of, like, themselves on Instagram and be like, yo, make me look like this.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely crazy.
This filter is like, crazy. There has to, like, people got to calm down a little bit.
There's healthy comparisons. Yeah. I think what we're saying is healthy comparisons and then unhealthy ones, right? Healthy comparisons are totally fine. Like you said, if somebody's good at marketing, then compare your strategy or whatever it is that you're doing to someone else, and then try to see how you can improve yours. Because the thing is, I hate this whole mentality that sometimes people have in society. It's very individualistic, right? It tells you to focus on your own journey, don't look at other people and stuff. And I get it. It's very important to focus on your own journey. I'm not saying it isn't. It definitely is. But you wouldn't know what you're doing wrong and how to improve if you don't look externally and see, like, what are other people doing that's better than me that I could improve on, right? I think it's a critical aspect as well. And don't look at them out of spite. And again, like you said, it's all about perspective. Don't look at them out of spite or jealousy. It's about learning what they've done differently from you and how they've done it in a different way or probably better. And just implementing those lessons in your life, as opposed to, you know, being like, oh my God, they're at step number 10 and I'm at step 1, and how, like, why are they like this? And I want what they have.
It's also, dude, a lot of it is again, because if you're coming from a self-aware perspective, you're also understanding, you know what you're comparing. One good example is this like body shaming thing, right? Like, oh, don't say somebody's fat or this and that, whatever. Listen, if somebody's overweight, you're overweight, right? I'm overweight. I can lie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to hide it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm overweight. Now, am I going to connect?
Right.
Like, here's the stupidity. This is where the stupidity begins. This is where I believe it's wrong. Am I going to connect my weight to my value as a human being?
Yeah.
Right? If I'm doing that within myself or anybody else, that is wrong. But that's an issue with me. That's a matter of perspective. The weight will be wrong. Right, the weight I'm not going to turn that into a good thing, because if you're overweight, you're going to have more health issues, especially later on in life, right? You're going to have all sorts of other issues that you can't take away from it and be like, oh no, well, everything's going to be fine, right? It is separating that from my value as a human being. So people say, hey, because you think I'm fat, and now I'm not a good person, or I'm worth less for whatever reason. That's the stupidity. But if you're self-aware, right, and you know, hey, if somebody calls me like, you know, chubby or whatever, I'll be like, all right, that I am chubby. Am I going to connect that with me and my value as a human being? No, I'm not. So perfectly fine with it. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on it. Maybe I'll work on it. Maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I seem to say I've been working on it, but nothing's happening.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? And I'm not going to then, like, the one thing is going and swinging to the other side and being like, okay, this is wrong. I'm not going to let you body shame me. I'm going to do what me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I find foolish.
It's like another extreme, do you think, that you're going to?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, like, you shouldn't be able to tell me anything.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a reaction. I don't think it's founded.
Sometimes in life, and not just weight, but in any aspect of life, sometimes when people are telling you something, especially when it comes down to siblings, like when my brother says, hey, you sucked at this, I take note of it and I try to improve whatever it is that he is saying, because I value his opinion, and it usually comes from a good place. You know, sometimes, my brother doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, but you're trying to figure out, it's not, okay, so when he doesn't know what he's talking about, it's not that he's insincere.
No,
but you're taking his life experiences, you're seeing him for who he is, and seeing who you are, right? And then kind of trying to bring that together. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
Right? It's not like you're honestly, just discounting
to be honest,
it, right?
I usually value all of my brother's opinions, because they usually come from a good place. And usually he's just trying to, you know, make sure that I improve and I'm performing at my best,
no, 100%.
which is absolutely critical. And sometimes, you know, like we've discussed this on this podcast as well. You don't want people to just always tell you, hey, Horace, no, you're doing great. Hey, no, here's a participation award. The best friends in my life tend to be the ones that are brutally honest with me and tell me that, hey, you're screwing this up. You could be doing this better. Right? They are there because they have a vested interest in my success. And when I'm doing it wrong, because I can't always know, right? Because sometimes I'm in the thick of it and I don't know. They sometimes wake me up and give me that little push that I need to reach that next level. It's really important to have that.
No, I agree. And that also kind of is making me think about something else. The fact that how we give that advice matters a lot too. I find like nowadays people will say, hey, if I speak my mind, for some reason I have to be disrespectful. Yeah. You get what I mean? Like that.
You mean speaking your mind is seen as like you're not respecting?
No. I mean, I'm saying that people who say, quote unquote, I speak like my mind, confuse that with being disrespectful, right? Like I could say, hey, Ali, your writing is bad, right? Yeah. I could say, hey, listen, I think it's bad because I saw that, you know, your grammar is a bit off and this is what it is. Maybe you want to look at that. I don't know. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't want to, right? And that's like kind of letting you know what it is. It's more suggestive, whatever. Or I could say, dude, you write like shit, man. Do you even know like how, like what English is, right? Like, and I feel like people use that latter to like nowadays be like, I speak my mind. I feel like when you are giving other people opinions, right, we need to, as a society, understand how to respectfully give opinions. Don't shy away from them, but then don't like overcompensate. Be like, oh, I speak mine. The whole like, I feel like, and I think a lot of this started with like the Simon Cowell nonsense, right? Where like it started with American Idol, and I feel like a lot of these shows now have it where there's just one guy who just speaks his mind, and because he's speaking their mind, they're disrespectful. That is something that like I feel like should be separated.
Yeah. So speak your mind, but don't be disrespectful. Is what you're saying, right? There's a good way to criticize.
So like your inner circle should encourage you, but in a respectful way.
In a respectful way, right? There's an approach and a way to do it. Is what you're saying, right?
100%.
There's no shaming. Shaming involved. Shaming. Yeah, shaming is definitely wrong. Interesting stuff. Very complex topic about comparisons and things like that. Would you say in life in general, like the way you were you raised from a family that always used to, delve into comparisons and force you to be like, your dad tells you, hey, look at what this person's doing. You should be doing better. I feel like our backgrounds, even my background was exactly like this. Like the best way for my parents to discipline me or to, light a fire under my butt was to say, hey, look, person X is doing this. You're not, you suck.
Yeah.
Right?
Growing up,
that's our healthiest
way
to do it. But honestly, it's made me a lot more competitive, a lot better than I would be if they didn't do that, to be honest.
I mean, for me, I guess like the thing is like definitely their push helped me.
Yeah.
The method that they used to do that, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you know what? Like at some age, I think when I was younger, I would be like, oh man, that person is doing this, right? But as I got older, my parents would be like, oh, people's kids are doing A, B, and C. I'm like, okay, where are these kids, man? Show them to me, because I gotta know. Bring them to me, and I'll tell you how they got where they got to. Right? I got a little bit of a lip, right? It's like, comparison. You're giving me the one thing that you felt is good, and what about all the other things, right?
All the other things they're doing wrong.
Yeah. So like, it's like that was, I guess, more my high school, undergrad years that it slowly was like, oh, this is all nonsense. But then I was thankful that I did understand that, okay, well, there is something good about this, and I should not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
The comparison, again, like the improvement, 100%. We should always be improving ourselves, but how we do that should be done in a very respectful and a self-aware kind of method. Yeah,
no, for sure. I'd say so. To end it here and final takeaways for me, the biggest thing I think is what I said earlier. Don't live in a bubble. Don't just go move forward in life with blinders on like a horse. Sometimes you need to look left and look right and see what it is that people are doing differently than you and why they're doing it better. Because those little improvements that other people are doing, that little comparison that you're making, and it's a healthy comparison, allows you to refine your process and just develop better. So there's nothing wrong with that. Right? But when you are sort of comparing yourself to others because you don't want them to have something and it comes from a bad place, then you know that that's not healthy. It's usually jealousy. Right? So that comes from an unhealthy place. So there's a subtlety here, and it's an art, right? It's not very much black and white.
An analogy that just popped up into my mind is like when you're comparing yourself, it's more like if you're a professional athlete and you're playing, and it's like LeBron James in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have prepared himself for the game, right? And there's certain rules that he has to abide by during the game. So if you're comparing yourself to others, you got to prepare yourself, become self-aware, right? Do that work with yourself. And there are rules during the comparison, because if you don't go into the game with that, you're just going to hurt yourself and look like an idiot.
You are.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And it's not going to do anyone any good. And it's just going to exacerbate your own situation. So prepare and keep in mind there's rules to any comparison.
Yeah, got it. All right, so we'll leave it there?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Take care, guys.
Take care.